Hey, it's Bill Martin, meteorologist in the Bay Area for 38 years, chief meteorologist at Channel 2, surfer for 45 years, out in the water a lot. And this is something I've always wanted to do. I couldn't do it on TV because in the news because it didn't really support that. But this is about sharks, about white sharks specifically, with all the people in the water now, all the surfers in the water. It comes up a lot. And I just want to put some perspective on it. I'm not a shark expert. I looked up some stuff. I got some little nuggets here. I wanted to start off with this.
Swimming.
Probably the most scary opening scene in the history of movies. I'll put it like that. There you go. You can just see, we can see it. But I still get shudders looking at this. Remember seeing it in the theater. I grew up in Paradise. We used to swim in rivers. Ocean became terrifying to me after this movie. This is must be 1975 or 1965. Anyway, you know the deal. She gets chomped. Now, this is what is in, kind of our common lore, this imagery of the white shark and like they're man-eaters, like they're hunting us. Like in this movie, right, the shark is like hunting people, actively hunting people. In this case, he's hunting a really pretty young naked woman, which is sort of I'm sure what's going on there. And then there's a Shark Week on Discovery Channel as well. And just as a longtime surfer, and I got to tell you, as I was doing the numbers here, the white shark attacks in the 1980s and 1990s, they spiked. Oh, I'm sorry. That's when I started surfing in 1978. So we had it just proliferated. There were many more shark attacks back then than there are now, despite more people being in the water, magnitudes greater people in the water. There's less shark attacks, certainly in the Red Triangle area. So I just want to put a light on that. I think we do in the news stories, we would do news stories about sharks. And it would be, people in Daly City or in San Jose would be watching this from the safety of their homes, and you start to think this is what it is, right? Because we all saw the movie Jaws. Jaws had an incredible impact on all of us. And I was sort of an outdoorsman when I was a little kid, and it scared the hell out of me. And I'm still scared of white sharks. But you know what I'm more scared of? Tiger sharks, right? Tiger sharks will keep eating you. White sharks, they want to bite you once and they want to move on. But in that realm, 45 years surfing, I knew a lot of fishermen back in the day. The fishermen that surfed would tell us stories a lot about what they'd see out at the Farallons, the white sharks, out at Bolinas. They still do. A lot of white sharks. And so when you're a surfer or a fisherman and a surfer, which a lot of the guys were back in the day, they were, I mean, wouldn't that get in your head, right? Like in my life, I've only seen 2 white sharks and been chased out 4 times. There's encounters. That's an encounter. I saw one, right? Oh, there it is. Or even if it bumps you, that's an encounter. A bite, not an attack, but a bite is a bite, right? So there's a big difference between encounter and bites. And I'll tell you a little something. The amount of encounters there are off the charts because I didn't report my 2 encounters, right? You probably didn't report your 2 encounters. A lot of people nowadays mistake dolphins for white sharks. But anyway, this is Ocean Beach. We got sharks out there for sure. I've always had them. I have a lot of friends that grew up out there back in the 50s and 60s and 70s. I was there in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and even now. And they're out there. I have never seen one, but I've been chased out of Ocean Beach twice. The scariest story I ever heard was from Bob Wise, used to own the surf shop. He was out with, I can't remember who he was out with. He was out with a bunch of guys off Sloat Avenue. This is a terrifying story. I got so many terrifying stories because I was on television, so all my friends would talk to me about their terrifying shark stories. And anyway, so Bob's sitting out of Sloat Avenue, probably about 100 yards offshore, and this thing comes up, and it's about an 18-foot white shark. And the heads, they're not like trout. They're fat, right? They're big around as they are long. That's the weird thing about white sharks. But anyway, he says this thing comes up and just lifts up, and there's 3 of them sitting here, and just pulls the eye out and just looks at it and then goes back down. And Bob, if you know Bob is a legend at Ocean Beach. He just passed recently, but that's like that's what a trout will do, looking for a fly, a surface fly, right? They'll kind of, I just got back from fishing trip, and the trout, the big trout will look, oh yeah, I'm smarter than that. So that, first of all, makes me think, okay, sharks don't want us, but there's a difference between encounters and bites, right? And there's a lot of encounters. This is Ocean Beach. It's a good day at Ocean Beach. I should credit this. This is Epic Surfing at Ocean Beach, and it is DG Films. Thank you, DG Films, for that. It's a good day. But again, shark attacks, relatively rare, obviously. Shark encounters, I don't think they're so rare. I was down at, this is Stinson Beach, 2 shots. To the right of Stinson Beach is a place that, to me, is one of the sharkiest places of all time. It's in the Red Triangle. We'll talk about the Red Triangle. It's from Bodega Bay out to the Farallon Islands. This is within the Red Triangle, and down to Big Sur. And a lot of the fishermen out at Bolinas, I know you guys send me video all the time of white sharks. And everybody surfs. It's like kind of a learner spot. Yeah. It's kind of a learner spot out there. Just like 200 yards down the beach to the right of this very popular beach at Stinson Beach. And there are sharks. And I'm telling you, they're out there all the time, because the seals, especially this time of year, as you get into September, October, November, and December, the seals are having pups. And in that lagoon, in the Bolinas Lagoon, that's where the seals keep the babies so that the white sharks can't get them. But when they come out that little opening, right, or they come in on high tide on that opening, that's when it gets weird, right? So that's why there's so many sharks. And Bob Wise, again, who is a longtime resident in Ocean Beach, surf shop owner, WISC, he told me a story. And he would tell stories, but he didn't exaggerate. Well, no, he might have exaggerated, but this is true, because I had double confirmation on this. But that lagoon that goes out Stinson Beach, out by Bolinas, between Bolinas and Seadrift, that lagoon, he said one time they were surfing out front, and a shark had been in the lagoon, probably feeding or trying to get in, and it came out, and it couldn't get out because the tide had dropped so much. And he said it's like a 15 to 18 foot white shark just flopping around like a seal on this sandbar. He said it was terrifying. And I've seen plenty of that. I haven't seen plenty of that. I've heard plenty of that, pardon me. If I'd seen plenty of that, I personally wouldn't deal. More surfing, just because it's awesome to look at, but I would also say that the stories I have stories from, I know 3 guys who have been bitten directly, and I know countless guys who have had encounters. The scariest bite story I've ever encountered was, I won't mention the name and I won't mention where, because a lot of these spots are secret spots. There's a reason they're secret, because they're good waves, but there's a lot of sharks. And if you surf, you know what I'm talking about, in Northern California. He was paddling back out to a really sharky break on a really unusually good day. He paddles back out, and he feels he's paddling out, and if you surf, it's like a sandbar wave. It's almost like it's just a point wave, but it's sandbar, this one place. And he's paddling back out after a pretty good wave, and he feels the board go stable on him. It's a shark coming vertical underneath him with its mouth open. So, right, it's a positive pressure. So the board, right, the first thing he notices is the board. You know who you are, too. He notices the board. It's stable. And then just like a trout hitting a dry fly, boom, boom, hits him. Grabs the board here, so he's got the board on him, right, on his stomach. The teeth go into the board, and the teeth go into his back. He goes straight down. And he goes, it was weird. He goes, it just happened really quick, like if you've ever seen a trout catch a fly. And so he's going down, and he goes, my ears started to hurt, right? This is how, because that's what sharks do. They bite you really hard. They hope for a fatal wound, and then they take you to the bottom, and they let you float up dead. Then they can eat you. But in this case, this guy's fine. The board kind of saved him. But he said, right when he didn't think he could take it anymore, he felt a twitch, like that. And that's the shark. And he goes, just extreme acceleration and down even deeper. And then the shark let him go. And he survived. He's got some stitches in his back. But that story to me, because just picture a trout hitting a fly, man. That's how they do it. That's how they do it. I got some more imagery to go here with that. Here's the Red Triangle basically from Monterey. More attacks happen here. Let's see, I got a little nugget on it. Red Triangle, roughly 1/3 of all recorded shark attacks in the U.S. have occurred in this area, because one of the biggest reasons is we have super awesome water temperature. Northwesterly winds create upwelling. And that upwelling creates more nutrients in the ocean, which creates, like in Santa Cruz right now, there's a full on anchovy, sardine, just bait ball going on. It's been going on for the whole last year of just so much bait in the water because of the cool nutrients. And with that, the sardines or the anchovies bring in seals, bring in other fish, bring in sharks, bring in otters. Everything's it's a food ball, and that's what the Red Triangle is about. That's why these northwesterly winds. That's why San Francisco Bay is such an awesome sailing location. These northwesterly winds give you that upwelling. So it's the Red Triangle. First documented attack was 1952. I remember this. I wasn't alive, but it was at Baker Beach, and I just remember reading about it because it was so weird. The first documented attack in the 1980s and 90s, right when yours truly started surfing, there was a spike. During these decades, there was a noticeable increase in encounters, especially around the Farallon Islands and Bodega Bay, which was interesting because it seemed there weren't that many of us surfing back then, but it seemed like, oh man, when you paddle out, honestly, because we didn't know. I'd paddle out alone all the time, down Second Lot or up at Kelly's or out at RC. Well, I can't mention that place, but secret spots alone, and just thinking, oh, this could be it. Which is weird. When you're a kid, you're fearless as hell. But because we didn't know, now there's so many people in the water, we get it. Sharks don't want to eat us. Let's see, modern encounters, survivability improving, encounters versus attacks. We talked about that. 1952, the Baker Beach attack. 1981, Big Sur, diver was killed. 1984, Año Nuevo, diver was fatally bitten. 94, there was a kayaker at Point Reyes who was fatally attacked. I forgot about that one. 1997, this is all in the Red Triangle. Tamales Bay, kayaker fatally attacked. Mendocino County, just a little north of the Red Triangle, kayaker was bitten. 2012, Surf Beach, which was down by Santa Barbara, a kayaker was bitten as well. So let's get some facts in about sharks. So what I'm getting at here is, listen, it doesn't happen that much. They're a part of the ocean. They're why you like surfing, believe it or not. They're why you like surfing, because if it was, maybe it isn't why I like surfing, because you're in the food chain. When in our lives do we get to stick ourselves in the food chain? And I wouldn't say the chances of getting bit by a shark are pretty damn rare. In this Red Triangle, I've surfed 48 years in this Red Triangle, I've seen 2 white sharks, and I've been chased out 2 or 3 other times. When I say chased out, other people, I'll tell you that story too. I was out at Ocean Beach off Sloat, and it was back in the day when we didn't talk to each other. Surfers, now everybody talks. But in the old days, we didn't really talk, right? So I paddle out and I'm surfing. It was a horrible day, kind of like today, just blown out and crappy. And these guys, and we kind of vibing each other because they were with a bunch of their friends, and they were kind of bugging me, and because they were just, they weren't bugging me, but they were just they paddled up on me. So you got 8 miles of beach, and these guys paddle up, right, sit by me. So I'm like, and we weren't really getting along actually that well, and surf wasn't that good. Maybe that was part of it, but all of a sudden I look up, and these guys have no reason to love me. I look up, and they're all the way in the beach, about 150 yards away, all the way in by the drain pipe, waving at me to come in, freaking out. Okay, right? Did you just get chills? I did, because that's exactly what happened. And I knew, okay, these guys hate me. They probably want me dead, except they're worried I'm going to be dead. So they waved me in. The longest paddle of my life. The longest paddle. I didn't see it, but I know they go, oh, dude, you don't even get it. This big white came up to him, kind of like the Bob Wise story. And I was out there, and I look in, and everybody's on the beach. There's 4 guys on the beach, and I'm the only guy in the ocean for as far as anyone can see. And I know there's a shark there, and I know I got to paddle almost that quarter mile. Anyway, Red Triangle, yeah, Marin County, basically Marin County down to Big Sur, but it could cover further north as well. Blues represent fatal attacks. Blues represent, are blues encounters? Non-fatal injury, yeah, and then these are fatalities. These checkerboard lines. The blues are just encounters, non-fatal encounters. Is that right? Non-fatal injury, yeah. So that's interesting. I don't know how they define it, but anyway, this is where most shark attacks occur. Sharks are awesome because they're built for speed. They can go 25 miles an hour. They have incredible senses. This one freaks me out because I used to cut when twin fins first came out. I used to, when you turn around and you kick, and that twin fin, we used to single fins, but the twin fin I would kick with my heel, so I had always this open wound on my heel. You probably have one too, and it would bleed. And I remember remembering going, oh, they can smell blood in the water. They can smell a single drop of blood in 25 gallons of water, and they sense electromagnetic fields emitted by prey, um, like struggling prey. So that's spooky as hell, right? They're apex predators, so they eat whatever the hell they want. And they're vulnerable to extinction. This is interesting. And the reason we're concerned about them is I think mom has babies every 2 or 3 years, right? So that's a slow birth turnover. So the chances of losing these animals does exist. This is the south end of the Red Triangle. I used to surf at a place called Año Nuevo, this is out on an island out there, but this is why white sharks are around. And this is why they're around mainly August, September, October, November, in my mind, because they're feeding on the pups, the seal pups, right? And that's their favorite form of food. Years ago when I was at Año Nuevo surfing, we used to walk in. I don't know if you can do that anymore, but we used to walk into the cove. There was a dead one on the beach, big, probably 13, 14-foot white shark on the beach. And it was interesting because somebody cut the teeth out with a can. And I was like, because back then it was funny. You didn't think, I just, oh yeah, that's a white shark. I know they're out there. I didn't really think that it was that unusual, but it's really the only dead white shark I've ever seen. This is out at the Farallon Islands back when they were doing those experiments. This is one that, I'll see if I turn it down. Yeah, this is inside San Francisco Bay. I used to swim in the Dolphin Club. That's a white shark. This was taken a few years back. I remember this is Channel 2, the old TV station I used to work at. But we used to, remember Alcatraz, oh, hey, don't swim there. You could get bit by a shark. I mean, that's kind of the deal, right? So, yeah, they're inside the bay. They're pretty much everywhere. I think they show up more now because of drones, because you're up. When we were, this guy in the water, he probably, I don't know if you can see him, but it's hard to see a shark when you're chest deep on your surfboard. But when you're standing up, a stand-up paddleboard, or with a drone, or just the sheer number of eyeballs now, magnitudes greater crowd capacity, or not crowd capacity, but crowds, more people than there've ever been in the waters. So that's why we're seeing so many of them. They've always been there. There's no, oh, it's getting worse, it's getting better. They've always been there. And part of me thinks, again, the shark attacks have been light in the Red Triangle over the last 20 years or so. And I suspect that's because there are so many people. I think, listen, these things are shy. I'll bet you I've been within a foot of a white shark in the ocean at least 20 times, because I've surfed every day my whole life in the Red Triangle, right? They just don't want anything to do with you. They know what they're looking at. We do have some video, buddy of mine, Nick Masturzo, on Surfline camera. You know the Surfline cameras? Was able to shoot, because white sharks will do a thing where they breach, like a whale will breach to clean parasites off, or periscope. And the live Surfline cameras, because the live Surfline cameras are always rolling. So they're getting shots like this. So Nick actually found a shot, because he was in the water that day. It was just off of Noriega. So yeah, I don't know what to tell you, but this movie, man, it set me up for failure in terms of, I was terrified to even go in the lake when I was a little kid. But sharks are not bad. This type of activity kind of creates a fear that doesn't need to be there. They are part of the food chain, very necessary. Obviously, they are hunted. Now, I'm not convinced on this one. They're supposed to be top of the food chain, but I know that killer whales will take them down. You can help me with this. Again, I'm not a biologist or marine biologist by any sense of the imagination. Most of this is anecdotal, like the story I'm about to tell you. There's a story, and I'm not going to tell you who the people are. You could find them if you look around. Like this one happened down in Santa Barbara right after Jaws was released. In a place called The Ranch. And at the ranch, it's a private beach. This is Steamer Lane. A place called The Ranch, and a friend of mine, it was an acquaintance of mine, someone I knew through friends, they were diving. And he was with his brother in a boat, off Point Conception, essentially. And he's getting down the ladder. I kid you not. He's going backwards down the ladder. And same thing, shark comes up vertical. They're sneaky. They don't want you. If you see them and they see you see them, they're not as likely to jump on your, at least that's what I get from divers. But if you don't see them, it's game on for them. So the shark comes vertical. He's hanging on the ladder. I don't know if they're ab diving or what they were doing. This is about 1976. They're college students, Del Playa. And he's in the water, and this thing comes up, like 18 to 20 foot white. Opens, I get chills telling the story. Opens, and the reason we know this is because the brother's in the boat watching, and I talked to the brother. I talked to the guy too. The shark grabs onto him, goes up around his armpits, and lifts him up out of the water, and keeps lifting him. He's like 8 to 10 feet over the boat, and he's just hanging in this shark's mouth. I kid you not. You can find it if you search the internet. And I've actually talked to this guy, and I saw the scars from it. And I talked to his brother, his brother was more trying. He goes, my brother's more messed up than I am because he's in this little boat watching this thing occur. So, but again, the shark, like in the first story I told you, let go, just drop. It was like a taste bite. So sharks do a funny thing. They do a lot of, it's like I fish a lot, fly fish a lot. Trout are funny, man, like the bulls and the rainbows and the browns and they're the bigger ones, the older ones are pretty smart. So they test. They'll flash it. That's what we call it. And I was talking to a friend of mine down in Santa Barbara maybe a few months ago, and he was saying, oh yeah, happens all the time in this place where off the point where the sharks will flash, not knowing what they're looking at, trying to be savvy. It turns out most shark attacks, and you can check me on this. This is Steamer Lane. And oh, by the way, the upwelling. You see all the sea life, right? That's a lot of birds. This isn't. You go down to La Salva or down further to the south. There's even more, but there's a lot of sea life activity right now, which would indicate certainly a lot of sea life, which includes sharks. But so anyway, so the shark let him go, but those stories are stunning. This is Santa Cruz as well, and this is an interesting spot. It's a place called Concrete Ship down south about a mile, maybe. And this is a place called Privates. It's inside the kelp. Now, to my knowledge, and this is how I justify surfing certain places, I haven't seen any shark attacks inside the kelp. I can't think of any. If you know any, let me know. But just south of here, about a mile, just a mile south. One of the breaks up here is called Sharks, by the way, which is right. Sharks. But a lot of juvenile sharks. And from what I've learned, the juvenile sharks are the most dangerous because they don't know they're not like the old savvy shark that comes up and eyeballs you, right? Or like the 2 shark stories I told you, or the 3 shark stories I told you. They're the little sharks like shit. There's something going on, grabbing it, and that like a maybe even like a puppy. They don't really know what they're doing. Anyway, down at the Concrete Ship, I think a couple years ago, because of the drones, stand-up paddlers, a lot of video came out of there. A lot of and numbers of sharks, and same with Malibu. Let's see, Malibu is one of those places we used to think we were the only guys because we didn't consider them in the Red Triangle. I think they have to extend the Red Triangle. This is a live picture of Surfrider Beach in Malibu. Malibu, in this area, there are a ton of juvenile white sharks, and there are a ton of people in the water, and no one's getting bit. So big picture here. Let's see if I want to make sure I got through everything right. Because my point here is they're part of the food chain. They're super important to the ecosystem. And Jaws did us a great disservice by demonizing these animals that don't want anything to do with us. It's like getting pissed off at a raccoon or something because it nips at you. That's nothing to do with you, man. You're just in its way. And that's these sharks. They're not hunting anybody. Now, tiger sharks, that's a whole nother deal, man. But I've talked to so many guys. I've known more people. I know so many people who've had encounters with sharks. It's terrifying. And of those encounters, none of them really turned into anything horrid. It's just scary as hell. So, first opening scene, pretty scary, but that's not how the reality of the white shark. Make sure I got everything. Many friends, encounters, bites. I know encounters, bites. I'm gonna go through my notes. I made notes because I didn't want to miss anything because I want to make sure we do these sharks right. We see more sharks because of the drones. Yeah, pop culture versus reality. I got into that. Red Triangle. We got into that. And let's see what else we got. Stories from the lineup. I did that. Why sharks make surfing better? I just put you in the food chain, like I said. It makes it more awesome. It's like skydiving, but without. I mean, if you weren't, well, skydiving is a bad analogy, but you know what I'm saying. You want to it. It's like when guys go hunting now and there's grizzly bears. They're fine. It's you got to be, but you have to be prepared, and that makes the experience a little more raw, a little more real. And surfing makes sharks make surfing a little more real, a lot more real. Except I've been surfing 48 years and I've never been bumped. I've had a few encounters and I've never been bit. And that's thousands and thousands and thousands of hours in the Red Triangle. Hope this helps. Hope it makes sense. Hope next time you go surfing, shark's not the enemy, shark friend. Just be aware they're in the ocean. Oh, and last thing, driving home today or driving to dinner tonight or driving to work tomorrow, much more dangerous. I remember one of my anchors I work with, Dennis, who I love, Dennis Frischman. He used to go, "You're crazy to go surf." I mean, he'd get mad at me. He'd go, "You can't go out there." And that's how much fear was put into the general populace because of these movies, because of Shark Week, so on and so forth. And I go, Dennis, you're gonna get snuffed on 24 going eastbound, man. You got a much better chance. All right, that's awesome. I will see you back here tomorrow. We'll do weather next time.